welcome back, Sons of Russ, to my ninth edition unit by unit breakdown of the Space Wolves chapter. We've already done Ragnar, and we've already done Bjorn. Now it's time for Murderfang, everyone's favorite funny name Dreadnought. People like to make fun of his ridiculous name, but they also know to fear him. They move aside as he runs towards their lines because no one wants to deal with Murderfang. So we're going to start off with his lore, then we'll move on to his statistics, and then finally we'll go over stratagems to use during the game, and then strategies and tactics that I personally employ on the battlefield. So settle in. Murderfang has a pretty short amount of lore, but it's fun. So grab a drink, get relaxed. Here we go. It was Logan Grimnar's great company that found the feral dreadnought known as Murderfang. On the hell world of Omnicide, the champions of Fenris were locked in a roving campaign against the Alpha Legion, with battles raging throughout the spine of acid-spewing volcanoes that encircled the planet. The Space Wolves fully expected to be ambushed as they followed the duplicitous Chaos Space Marines further into the mountain ravines. But instead of a deadly trap, they came across a slaughter. A stampeding mechanical beast was hurtling through the already thin Alpha Legion ranks, its massively brutal claws tearing the remaining traitors limb from bloody limb. The monstrous construct bore the heraldry of Fenris, though no battle brother recognized the specific markings. The Space Wolves joined in the melee, quickly dispatching the last of the Alpha Legion. But even with their common foe gone, the fury of the Dreadnought did not subside. Attempts to communicate with the entombed battle brother were met with metallic snarls, and all efforts to calm the berserk machine only enraged it further. Only by using Hellfrost technology were the Space Wolves able to freeze the Dreadnought, placing it in stasis, so that it could be taken back to Fenris and studied by the Iron Priests in the Fang. The metal-skinned monster is now believed to be a culmination of the Curseborn prophecy, its arrival having been foreseen nearly 200 years ago. Though it resembles a Space Wolf Dreadnought, and must once have had a name, the identity of the once noble hero within the sarcophagus is long lost, consumed by the bestial thing that now leers from its facade. Named Murderfang by the Space Wolves, it is a force of untamed destruction. In times of great strife, such as when Fenris itself was beset by a demonic incursion, the machine beast is released from its glacial prison and set upon the foe. Unleashed, Murderfang claws and stamps until nothing is left but ruin. At battle's end, the Space Wolves freeze it with Hellfrost technology once again, hoping that Murderfang's wrath can be stayed for long enough to see it contained in the caverns beneath the Fang. Yet all know that as the time of ending approaches, the white heat of its rage will be needed more than ever. Alright, in game terms, Murderfang is 135 points, and he's 9 power level. His statistics are 8-inch movement, 2+ weapon skill, 3+ ballistic skill, strength 6, toughness 7, wounds 8, attacks 5, leadership 8, and save 3+. He has a heavy flamer on one fist and a storm bolter on the other. His combat melee weapons are the Murder Claws. They are strength ×2, which gets him up to strength 12, AP -3, and flat 3 damage. Under abilities of the Murder Claws, it reads, you can re-roll failed wound rolls for this weapon. So he hits on 2s, strength 12, -3 flat 3, re-roll failed wounds. Spectacular. Alright, abilities. He explodes, just like a normal Dreadnought. He has an ability called Force of Untamed Destruction. And the description is, Murderfang cannot be your warlord. So no matter what, no warlord traits, nothing like that. He can't be your warlord. The named character. Next one is called Murder Lust. You can re-roll failed charge rolls for Murderfang. In addition, in a turn in which Murderfang makes a successful charge, increase his attack's characteristic by 2 until the end of the turn. So he starts with 5 attacks. First round of combat, it'll be 6 because he's a Space Marine and has the Angels of Death ability. Shock Assault. And then this Murder Lust ability gives him another 2. So that gets him up to 8 attacks. At weapon skill 2, strength 12, -3 flat 3, reroll wounds. We'll let that sink in for a second. This guy statistically hits harder than a Primarch. He does more damage than Magnus. because Magnus realistically is going to hit and wound with all of his attacks, and those are flat 3, and he only has 7 attacks, whereas Murderfang has 8 that are flat 3, and he's going to hit and wound with all of them realistically. So, how do we use this just ball of death? That's kind of what we're going to go across. So, the main special thing about him is that he has the character keyword and only 8 wounds. So unlike, say, Magnus or Mortarion, some big Primarch that hits as hard as Murderfang, you can't target him. If he has a unit within 3 inches that has at least 3 models, or is a vehicle or dreadnought, or vehicle or monster, you can't target him. So until it's too late, until he's in your ranks and barreling in, you just can't even target him unless you have snipers. And if you do have snipers, he's pretty tough. He's T7 with 8 wounds and a 3-up save. So snipers will still have some trouble chewing through that. So already right off the bat, he's a little safer for the most part than, say, the other things in the game that hit as hard as him. And I know it sounds a little ridiculous to compare this little Dreadnought for 135 points to Magnus or Mortarion. But I'm telling you, 8 attacks that hit on 2s, if it's turn 3 or further, since he's a Space Wolf, he has exploding 6s, so each 6 is 2 hits. At strength 12, minus 3, flat 3, reroll failed wounds. So his efficiency is just through the charts. The fear he'll put in your opponent cannot be underestimated. I put him on a flank, I send him straight up, and it forces my opponent to move his models, his units, sideways to get away from the trajectory of Murderfang, which a lot of times leads him into my trap, where the rest of my army is pouncing on the other flank or in the middle. Yeah, people just run. I've seen him tip over. I've seen him charge a tank, consolidate, and then my opponent has to choose, because obviously he killed the tank, has to choose to then shoot what he has left at Murderfang, or more important things like my Leviathan Dreadnought or my 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I like to put him on a flank. Here's how I run him, guys. I put him on a flank, and right next to Murderfang is Ragnar. So you have these 2 glass cannons, these 2 characters that'll just delete anything they touch, but they're very easy to kill. And then in front of them, I put 3 Wolfen Dreadnoughts with the Blizzard shields. The reason I go with Wolfen Dreadnoughts is because they move 8 inches. So we got to keep that speed up. So on the flank, I'm just advancing with Ragnar, with Murderfang, and with all 3 Wolfen Dreadnoughts with the Blizzard shields and axes up the flank. It's this ball of pure combat death that your opponent either knows how powerful it is and will run for his life, or maybe doesn't know and sends out some combat troops to fight him. I mean, I've had games where people come at me with Blood Angels, with Sanguinary Guard, or whatever they have they think is very powerful, and they just can't fight Murderfang, Ragnar, and 3 Wolfen Dreadnoughts. It's just too dangerous. So there's lots of ways you can keep him safe. Another tactic that I am really looking forward to, because I just got my repulsor painted up and just got the assault intercessors assembled, is to have a repulsor full of assault intercessors, and then right behind the repulsor is Murderfang and Ragnar, and they just run right behind it. The repulsor keeps them from being able to be targeted, and if they can be targeted by like a sniper, Ragnar's so small the repulsor just blocks line of sight, so you can't even see him. So that's one way to do it, and that's the same deal. That's another just ball of death, because then you're going to have to deal with Ragnar, Murderfang, and all those assault intercessors. If you're not going pure Primaris and Dreadnoughts like me, you could easily do a couple Rhinos, each with some Blood Claws, or a Land Raider Crusader, just full of Blood Claws, or even just Grey Hunters, however you want to run it. You could also easily just run them up the field with infantry in front of him, so that you can't target him. Maybe he could run behind a pack of the Thunderwolves, which is just as devastating and scary. yeah, with my Dreadnought army, I always run him behind a wall of Dreadnoughts holding up shields. It is epic. It is very powerful and very dangerous. And really, at the end of the day, not that many points. That little ball I told you about is about, it's over a little over 600 for Ragnar, Murderfang, and the 3 Dreadnoughts. So that means in the middle of the field, backfield, on the other flank, I got 1,400 more points to bring lots of shooting, Bjorn, Leviathan, all those other tasty Dreadnoughts that I love to bring. Let me just tell you a little bit what he's done on the field. His acts of savagery on the field are second to none. I mean, really, you want to save your point of, you want to save a CP, basically, for him. So if he gets into combat, you do Touch of the Wild for 1 CP. I've talked about this with Bjorn. I've talked about this with Ragnar. Touch of the Wild is seriously, seriously almost overpowered when it comes to any of these 3 characters. So just statistically, let's say he charges, something amazing, a Night Titan. All right. He's got 8 attacks that hit on 2s. You spend 1 CP for Touch of the Wild, and suddenly every 4-up is an extra hit. So his 8 attacks that hit on 2s, you may miss 1 because he doesn't have his own rerolls. Let's say you're not near rerolls, so you miss 1. So that's 7 hits. But of the 8 attacks, 4 are 4-ups. So suddenly your 7 hits becomes 11 hits. Then you're wounded on 3s, rerolling. Math says with the rerolls, you should wound with 9 or 10 at flat 3. So you're looking at 30 wounds on a knight. He just brings him down. Just utterly destroys the knight. Also, same thing I say with Ragnar, same thing with Bjorn. All these stratagems work the same for them. You want to save 2 CPs to fight when you die. Because what will happen is people will go out of their way to make sure they time it right to where they hit Murderfang with their charge because they don't want to deal with him. And you just make sure, too bad, you have to deal with him no matter what because 2 CP means he's bringing him down. Even if you whiff, let's say, against that Night Titan and only do like 10 wounds, I know that's hilarious. A bad roll with Murderfang is still like 9 wounds. And then it hits and kills you, you spend 2 CP and you hit him again with all of it. 8 attacks, exploding 4s, it's all still the same combat. You still count as charging. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. If I time the charges right, sometimes I don't know who to give this Touch of the Wild CP stratagem to because it's incredibly good on Ragnar. It's incredibly dangerous on Bjorn. Typically, Bjorn is my last choice because Murderfang is just above and beyond more dangerous because of that flat 3 damage and 8 attacks. But if Ragnar's piling into a huge, group of berserkers, I'll probably want to give it to Ragnar so you can just clear the whole unit. He can't advance and charge, so and there's no real stratagem to let him do that, you should just never forget about his Stormbolter that always gets all 4 shots and his Heavy Flamer. It's easy to forget because, like me, I run him behind a wall of Dreadnoughts that have no guns at all, and so a lot of times I'll kind of forget that he has guns. But he does, and they add up. Some Heavy Flamers help. More Daka with his Stormbolter, nothing big. I won't go over the stratagems too much because if you were with me on my last one, it's all the same ones work for Murderfang that work for Bjorn. So you have Duty Eternal, which is 1 CP. Basically, you have damage on Dreadnoughts. That works for him. Also, there's a 1 CP strat from the basic Space Marine book that lets a Dreadnought have a 6-inch reroll bubble like a captain. So if you do have him off by himself and you have the CP to spend, why not pop that to give him reroll 1s just to make sure he hits and wounds with every single attack. I've said the same thing about Bjorn. I've said the same thing about Ragnar. They are cruise missiles. They are coming in hot and they just auto-delete everything they fight. But just like Bjorn and Ragnar, he's very, very easy to kill. He's just he's just T7 with 8 wounds and 3 up save. No invul, no feel, no pain. So a lot of times, the trickiest part is he'll hit something, he'll destroy it, and then he's standing there to get shot. So you want to hit at the same time along a flank or along a enemy battle line as a couple other dreadnoughts or a couple units or a powerful unit like Thunderwolves, so that when they both destroy who they're fighting, when they consolidate, you make sure he's still behind that unit, if you can picture that. So you do have to consolidate closest to the enemy unit, but he is a character, so he's going 6 inches. Um, that may change with the new book coming up, but we'll just roll with it. His stats aren't going to change most likely for a long, long time, because it'll be a while before the Space Wolf get their own dedicated codex in 9th edition. So always make sure to consolidate so that he's still behind a closer unit, so that on your opponent's turn they can't just blast him off the table. If you succeed at doing this, he can just pinball into one unit after another after another. He is that dangerous. People are gonna run for their lives, run for the hills. So this picture you're looking at right now is what the actual model looks like. The thumbnail for my video and the first couple pictures during this video were of my personal conversion. I just thought it was time for an upgrade, time to let him be in a Contemptor armor. So that's all for show. He still just has the same stats, but mine personally is in a Contemptor Dreadnought armor. Guys, he's only 135, and he hits harder than anything. I mean, he hits. If you pop that once for 1 CP, you can have your 4s explode, and he hits harder than Gulliman. He hits harder than Magnus and Mortarion. Hits harder than any Bloodthirster. I mean, if you pop that 1 CP, he's going to do as much damage, usually around 30 wounds, to something like a Knight or a big tank, that a Lord of Skulls does. I mean, this guy costs a fraction of what those units cost. He is only 135 points. I cannot stress this enough, how dangerous he is for 135. He's a glass cannon. If you're lucky enough to find an opponent who's not really heard of him, they'll take him for granted. They'll think he's just a big combat dreadnought, kind of like a Furioso dreadnought from Blood Angels. And they won't realize how completely devastating he is. He is a one-hit delete unit. He's point and click, and they just die. That being said, you always run the chance of fighting a unit that all have storm shields, and they just roll hot, and he can bounce. I haven't ever seen him fail to kill a unit. He's killed a unit every time he's touched it, every time I've ever used him, and we're talking 20 plus games. So, I mean, Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators are getting fewer and fewer far between. So, a lot of times when you do face a dangerous unit like that with Thunderhammer and Storm Shields, it's usually like a Smash Captain, like a Blood Angel Smash Captain. In which case, even if you fail to kill him, you're probably getting at least 1 wound through to do 3 wounds. Then when he hits you back and kills you, you pop 2, hit again, and kill him. And honestly, 135 is cheaper than a Smash Captain. So you got your points back right there. And you took out a dangerous mobile captain that you got to watch out for. Lots of ways to use this guy. I'll talk more in a different video about my breakdown of how I like to split my armies up. I already kind of told you how I run him up the flank. On the other side, I like to have a wall of 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts with Bjorn and a Leviathan marching up the field. So you have the fire base right there that's still really good at combat, and then you have the pure combat ball with Murderfang and Ragnar on the other flank. And then units like Fenrisian Wolves to hold objectives, and Mortis and Contemptor Mortis Dreadnoughts to sit on objectives and provide cover fire. I'm also getting some regular intercessors to provide cover fire, but I'm going to stick to my Dreadnought exclusive fluff for now, except for Ragnar because he's cool enough to come with everybody. Yeah, guys, this was a nice short one. He's just so dangerous. There's not much else to talk about. He's got the same good stratagems that Bjorn can use. He hits even harder. He hits even harder than Ragnar. Less attacks, but can kill bigger things. I think he's an auto take, in my opinion. For 135, he's an auto include. Tune back in, guys. I'm going to keep these churning out. This is Nick from Beer and Bat Reps. Just giving a shout out to all the Space Wolf players out there. We'll be back. Tune in. Thanks.